Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode, we will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equity, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders. Black Business Matters podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer marketing and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. I'm Larvetta Lofton, your host and founder of the L3 Agency. Welcome to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. I'm super excited to have our next guest. You're in for a treat. I am excited to bring this thoughtful marketer who has an amazing company helping over 2,000 small businesses. And he's actually my friend. And so I'm so excited to have him on our podcast because we've been talking about getting him on. And so now we have him. And I am going to pronounce his name correctly, but I'm also going to spell his name so that you can make sure you look out for him and connect with him, because the name of his company is Roosterly. So we're going to talk a little bit on what is Roosterly, because I always love that name. But Irfan really believes in supporting small business owners with cost-effective marketing plans. So as you all know, I run a marketing and communications firm, and we really specialize in influencer marketing and delivering on authentic, culturally sensitive content. So we work with Roosterly. We are one of their clients and they service us. So I'm excited to have the founder of Roosterly, Irfan Jafrey.
Irfan, yep, you got it.
Irfan. So we got to realize that, no, it's appropriate that we pronounce names correctly because you are a person of color. I'm a person of color. I'm Larvetta, like for real. So, helping people to pronounce a name that is your origin is so important. I think that's part of branding and making sure that people take the time to honor your parents for naming you something powerful. So we had the pleasure of meeting each other. Has it been 5 years? Okay. I want to say it was close to 5 or 6 years when the world was open, right? The world was open and we could go to a great event. It was at this really cool boutique hotel. He shared his story and he's going to share a little bit of his journey of being the founder of Roosterly. And I'm going to share a little bit. He holds a BA from the University of Washington in sociology with an emphasis on race relations. So I want to dig in a little bit about that, because how do you go from the emphasis on race relations to now running this amazing marketing company and digital company? And the other thing is that he also attended Loyola Law School and business school. So we've got a smart man on Black Businesses Matter today. So I really want you to listen and tune in. He's going to give us some really great tips on things to really get your business noticed, or perhaps just learning more about his story and why he, supports Black businesses and why he believes that Black businesses matter. So, all right, my friend, I need you to tell us, how did you go from this emphasis on race relations, law school, business school, and did I mention he's a Google alum? Yeah, I kept that out on purpose. How do you do all this? Kind of leave Google to start your own company. Not that that's not uncommon, but when I look at this, I'm like, all right, he's done this. And now he's helping over 2,000 small business clients.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you. I love to be part of anything that you're doing. So if you want me to tackle that first question is how I went from Google and law school and all that to running a company, especially with an interest in helping minorities. It has a lot to do with Run DMC. Let me tell you, and it has to do with a lot of anger as well, in all seriousness. So my father was a professor, and he moved from India to Seattle, Washington in the early 80s. And I was about 4 years old at the time. And we moved to a lily white neighborhood. So I thought I was white until I was about 12. And I got into middle school, and we weren't really accepted in elementary school. I was maybe one of two people of color in my elementary school. And I got to middle school, that's when I saw people of color, and they were more accepting. Black people were more accepting of me than the kids that lived in my own neighborhood. Okay. And that was around the time that everyone was wearing those African necklaces that were multicolored.
Yep. Yeah.
Leather. Kid and Play was popular. There was a little bit more, but I wore one. You know?
Wow. I can see you wearing one though. I really can. I really can.
And it was so great to have people, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. I would always see kids come back from their spring break and winter break, and they had tan skin, and they were wearing these like Hard Rock Cafe sweatshirts and t-shirts that they got from their trip with their family, and they would spend time with their family. We didn't. Like, I was like, man, I would do anything. That was an expensive sweatshirt. That was like $30, you know? And I was like, man, I really want that. But my point is, once I felt more accepted around the Black kids at school, it also made me really angry at why I wasn't accepted by the kids in my own neighborhood. So when you're angry like that, when you focus on why you're treated differently, and it's the small things that get you, it's not the big things. It's like, okay, why did that person look at me that way?
Yeah.
Why aren't they letting me into this, birthday party or whatever it was, where they just treat you differently wherever you are? And by the time I got to college, I was just angry. I hated corporate America because I didn't think I would ever fit in. I was angry at just society for just social injustices that I saw everywhere. And that is sort of what propelled me. And I ended up falling into technology. My grand plan was to go into like civil rights law. It wasn't to be a detective at all. Right. So that's what got it started.
Wow. So anger is what created, what's the Roosterly? So with the business name Roosterly, I mean, I know you're going to tell me about you spent some time at Google, but I'm just curious, what's the thing with the Roosterly?
Yeah. So we met so at the time we started Roosterly, we had no money, but I knew some folks at Leo Burnett and some alumni from other marketing firms that we couldn't afford. But they invited myself and one of my colleagues at the time to like a whiteboard session in downtown Chicago. And we were sitting there talking, and they're like, tell me about your clients. Who's your business for? I was like, look, the types of clients we serve are type A executives. They're up early in the morning. They know what they want to do. They're very vocal, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, they took a couple of those tidbits of knowledge, of what we shared, and they came up with a name that had two vowels in it. Yahoo has two O's, Google has two O's. They're like, okay, how about this? And it's just like, it has the colors that I like. My favorite colors are orange and blue. It's got orange in it. It's a pretty simple story. It has nothing to do with my anger as a kid, though.
No, but I love that. First of all, can I just say this? Regardless if you didn't pay, you went through a full branding session. I mean, we do a lot of that, and there is a technique and skill behind it. And I am happy that you shared that process, because a lot of times people don't see that whole process of really getting to the name that is going to resonate and represent who you are, even as much as you're talking to these clients, but that's also who you are. Like, these are my colors. I love those colors, and they're this. And so a lot of times people come out with these businesses and not really properly having that session. And so I'm over here just having chills, because when I hear about that whole branding discovery session to get to a name with two, like, I get it. Yahoo, Google, Roosterly. And when it's so funny because, of course, we've been a client of yours for quite some time. When I share with people, they're always like, Roosterly, never heard of it, but it sticks with them, right? It really does stick. And so it's powerful enough, the same way the Yahoos and the Googles of the world, right? So I love, love the name. And that's why I brought it up, because when I heard of it, I thought it was very novel, very unique. And I was fascinated to learn more about it. And I think that that is the hook to
Mhm,
how the business works for you, right?
mhm.
Because that is what you do. I mean, it's very much, I mean, like I'm sitting here, I was like, yeah, that would be me. I get up early. Yep. We're always busy. Yep. We're always probably raising our hollering at some point. I'm not hollering, hopefully, with my team. I don't do that, but I'm sure I'm hollering. I'm sure I'm hollering at something, at myself or something. But so, how long were you at Google?
I was at Google about 5.5 years.
Wow. And what was that experience like?
I will tell you, Google has diversity. It's a great company. You work a lot. You feel like you've worked a span of 10 or 15 years in a very short amount of time. So I was sleeping at the office. I
Wow.
was young. I was single. I had a tremendous amount to want to learn. And so you get to work with a lot of incredibly bright people, so it was a great experience. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Wow. That's awesome. And so, I think to have that level of experience coming from there, how did working for, this number one giant like search engine video platform, how did that help to catapult your business and the vision? Obviously, the vision started at Google, right? Because you went from
Yeah,
Google to start Roosterly, right?
yeah.
Okay. And so what was that to get to start? Like for you, was it like I quit my job and now I'm about to launch my business, or were you launching it simultaneously?
No, it was not simultaneously. It was a clean break and then figuring out what to do. So let me describe that. So,
Yeah.
as somebody who does, I was looking at, when we're in our mid to late 20s, I like to think that most people, or at least I went through what I would call a quarter life crisis, where you're questioning your purpose and you're questioning the impact of the work that you do and whether it's worth anything. And so here I am working 80 hours a week. I got two nice cars that I don't drive because I walk or ride my bike to work. And it was just like, okay, like what else? And so I wanted the work that I did to at least impact in some small way someone else. And I thought at the time, I had heard anecdotally from lots of businesses that they struggled with social media. They didn't know how to post content, when to post content. They were risk averse, and they didn't want to hire an agency for $3,000 to do it. I mean, you're talking about a small business, sometimes, 1 to 10 employees, usually 1 to 3 employees. And so I thought to ourselves, okay, if we can build a solution that algorithmically could pull in content based on variables like hashtags and keywords
Mhm.
and their audience, that we can have a solution that's very cost effective, that can maintain their social media without them spending an arm and a leg. And it's free to try, right? I mean, they can try it for
Yep.
free. And it's
Yep.
$99 a month. It's not a big spend from
hmm
that perspective.
hmm hmm And to add that, and it's very easy to use, right? So that's the
Yes.
other piece of it, that it's very easy to use. The platform is very easy to use. And so when I think about, having, known you and Roosterly have been, I think, one of the ways that I'm able to continue to make sure that I'm engaging with advocates and clients and customers and things like that. It's important that you have that service provider that also gets you. And so when we talk about authenticity, and then I will talk about culture, how important is it for your company to really research and understand that small business executive client and what that process looks like for you?
So think of it in terms of a few different buckets, like 2 or 3 different buckets. The first thing that we do is each client has a questionnaire, a survey that they fill out. It's about 20 questions, talking to them about their background, their industry, their topics, their keywords, their hashtags. So that's, one bucket, getting information from the client about their industry and how they want to be perceived on social media. Perceptions of reality a lot of times, right, when you're a small business. So that's part one. The second part is our API. So our software interacts with the APIs of LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to get an understanding of your audience, who they are, where they're located, and what type of content they're sharing, what type of content they're commenting on and they're liking. Because it's not enough for us to just post content about how great you are. Ultimately, in order to build rapport, you have to engage clients where they're at, right? So if we're talking about, if we know that your clients are into things that are inspirational or they respond well to inspirational quotes, we're always monitoring that. And we're posting content that isn't religious, that isn't political, that isn't polarizing, that is, benign in a lot of ways, but it is still engaging. And you've got to be careful when you're posting content for clients like ours. Many of them are lawyers, accountants, and they might be extreme in their political view in the most positive light. We've got to be careful and monitor a lot of different variables of their audience and other things to be able to post the right type of content.
And, on our side, we say that it's value in research and data collecting. So, a lot of, what we do is really understanding what's working, what's not working, and really auditing that. And I think it's important that's highlighted because oftentimes people look at, marketing companies like, there's a tremendous amount of research in order for you to really deliver on that authenticity. Right. And so that's important. And I think that, as we continue to talk, now we're going to talk about culture. Right. And, why culture matters today. Like, you are a man of color and we've known each other and we've had similar struggles of acceptance. I love that you brought that because I too struggle with acceptance. And so, and understanding how much more we are alike than we are different. And we find that, well, she's an African-American Black woman. You know what? I'm an Indian man. We're clearly can't be, in the world, similar, but we are, because it's that cultural thing that we have that's not always dominated with color. Right. And so, and I love that you originally were going after race relations and understanding, why does culture matter more today? I think it matters more today. And that's just my thoughts for right now. It's always been something that should have been at the forefront. But I think now it makes sense because guess what? We're in a pandemic right now, right? So whether you're African-American woman, we all are talking, or lesbian woman or gay man or whatever, we're all talking about COVID, right? So that's the culture that we're in right now. And we all have on masks and we're all talking virtually. But if you've asked us 2 years ago, if I came up to you with a mask, you'll be like, what's wrong with her? Why does she have on a mask? And why does she want to talk to me from a virtual standpoint? So I love to ask you, why does culture matter today?
So it matters because we have a window of opportunity where we're sensitive to social injustice right now. I mean, 2022, January. And I'll tell you why. It's because we follow the tone set by the leader of our nation. And in the last presidency, so what I mean when I say that is the tone set by the leader of the country is what people in corporate America mimic, like it or not, right? They ape and act in a similar way. They start to believe it's acceptable to behave that way. Okay. Now, because the last presidency was so polarizing, because of the rhetoric that he would often use, most reasonable people were appalled by a lot of his statements, right? That creates a sensitivity towards acknowledging social injustice or corporate inequality, right? So when the nation is like, yo, this is not right. We need diversity, we need inclusion, we need equality and equity and these types of principles. It's a great time to be able to capitalize on that and make changes, right? We work with lots and lots of recruiters and headhunters and board members whose LinkedIn accounts we power. And so many of them came to us over the past, I would say, 18 months and said, you know what, I want to skew my content more towards DEI.
You did share that with me. Yeah.
And so right now, we want to take advantage of this window where people care.
Yes.
Because 6 months from now, a year from now, that will cool off and we'll move on to the next crisis.
Yep. And that's one of the things that one of our clients in the energy space, that was their comment. They felt like we were culturally sensitive. Like we were able to help them understand the importance of being culturally sensitive and understand that right now, asking people to do a number of things right now may not be the right thing to do. And so we had to lean into that more importantly. But here it is, marketing company, communications company talking about being culturally sensitive. Like, where does that come from? So even from that, we typically are selling, right? Oh, just get our brand out there. Let's make sure, we're hitting the numbers. I do think one of our episodes, we talked about impact and how impact looks different. It's not right now all about numbers, but it's about the impact that's being made. And I would love to know your thoughts on that. Like, Irfan, is it about, is it still about the numbers? I mean, granted, it's the numbers, but we're discovering that really it's about the impact that's being made in a particular segment, neighborhood, community, whatever it may be, tribe. Do you think that that's important, that the impact is outweighing now kind of like the numbers game?
Yes and no. I think impact is sometimes a luxury. What I mean when I say that is if you talk to somebody who is an army of one, they just started their business and they're grinding every day, they might not, the impact that they want to make is to pay their mortgage.
That's true. That's true. That's true. You're absolutely right, Irfan. That's so true.
And so we work with a lot of folks like that on that end of the spectrum. Now, when your basic needs are met and your business is stable and you've got a consistent revenue stream where you're able to you pay your employees or your contractors or what have you, and you're also further along in your career, you can take a step back and talk about things like legacy, and those types of things. And I think it wasn't until I had my son, my wife and I had our first child, that I became more concerned with that.
And I think that's fair distinction, because when you said that impact is a luxury, I do think that you're right about that, because I've heard people tell me, just mentors, they were like, you must help you before you can go help the world. Exactly. And so helping you says focus on you, which means that it's just you. So focus on you. So I think that that's important. Why do Black businesses matter? We're talking about that. That's our podcast. And I know that you have a number of Black businesses that you work with and service and support. So why do Black businesses matter?
Yeah. So my answer is going to sound a little bit critical, but it's not critical. All businesses have obstacles. Okay. I feel that Black businesses have many more obstacles. Many Black entrepreneurs that I've come into contact with, and I ask them, why did you start your business? Tell me about your journey. It's because they didn't have a place in corporate America. Okay. They may not have had the credentials to work in corporate America, or if they did, when they got into corporate America, they didn't feel comfortable, at the team building event, or I certainly didn't, right?
Yeah.
And so what do you do when that happens to you, where you feel like you're not welcome? You're like, okay, I'm going to go start my own thing. Yeah. And that's what many of them do. Now, when they go and do that, they're fueled by passion. They're fueled by a desire to do well for themselves, right? But many of them don't necessarily have the tools, because, when I was young, we didn't have the type of dinner table conversations around the table that white kids did. I mean, I had this intern, her name was Claire. Her father was a software executive. Her mother was an executive at an airline, and she was one of the best interns I've had, incredibly mature. and you could tell she would do well in corporate America. I had Black interns as well, and they were more like me because they don't know how to comport themselves necessarily corporate environments. And so you want them to succeed on their own and do their own thing. Now, keep in mind, of 2,000 subscribers that Roosterly has, plus or minus a few, only 3% of them are African-American businesses. So somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60 businesses. However, they account for 90% of our declined credit card payments. And and that's not a knock against them. It's that there is a certain amount of financial literacy that has not been imparted that I think needs to be part of the business education at a foundational level. Otherwise, majority of vendors aren't going to want to work with Black businesses if that's the case.
I'm so glad first of all, I just love your truth, right? I just do with all my heart. And bringing that to the forefront, because when we are able to describe the truth of the matter, then that's how we can fix. We cannot fix what we don't know what's wrong. And when you say that, I'm sitting here like, wow, that 90%, and knowing that when you reach out to them, I'm just curious, what happens then? When you reach out to them and say, hey, your credit card declined for, and I'm just saying expiration date or whatever. Hey, no response?
Yeah, so we have a cute little message that automatically gets sent out when that happens.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
And then we've got somebody that'll follow up via phone as well. And it's usually a function of, I didn't realize, let me update it. Or it's like, oh, you know what? The ones that are offended will be like, yeah, I'm not really interested in the service anymore.
Right.
And it's, and it's okay. I mean, that's fine. It is what it is. So those are typically the two buckets of answers that we get on that.
And I'll be honest with you, while we don't subscribe, we struggle with that on our side, right? When we're so to your point, when we are presenting, right, proposals to a general market audience, they don't see value in our numbers, right? So on that side, we're saying to ourselves, okay, they're not paying, but on this side, when we're trying to receive, you don't value our services. So you're questioning our fees, but there's never a question on the other side. So there lies, to your point, literacy and understanding why there is very limited value on that Black business. So there's where that number is now like, oh, we got to negotiate with you. But I'll tell you something. I've worked with so many top brands, right? We know them. They're all on a Forbes list. There's never been a time where they didn't negotiate. But I have a really, really great friend who is not Black, has an incredible business, never has to negotiate. That's what it is, and that's it. And so, and not that negotiation is a bad thing, right? Because it could be a situation where it's like, hey, I don't think I want this. Yeah, my budget was this. I'm okay with that. But you still want the same services, just at a cheaper rate.
So, we get that. Yeah. And look, I mean, at $99 a month, we've got a very strict level of service that we have to adhere to, right? And so we communicate that, and we try to say, we're very upfront about, look, if this is not the right time, or if this is not a good fit, that's okay. We don't want you to sign up, and we're very upfront about that. So, so as part of it is just the qualifying process of who you want to work with too.
And I think that's important. So, Irfan, I want you to share with our listeners that about if you have a unique story as a Black business owner, you would consider featuring their story in your column in Forbes magazine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Irfan?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I'm committed, despite what the last few minutes may have sounded like.
No, I love it.
I'm committed to supporting minority entrepreneurs, right? Minority business owners. And I write for Forbes magazine, usually around the tech space. So any of your listeners has a unique story that they want to share. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll get it published, but if you've got
that's called PR. that's called PR. So, I mean, we know all about that. So that's, hey, guys, I mean, you can submit it. It's just like PR. That doesn't mean that it's going to air. Okay. I just had to throw that in there.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah, I'd love to provide my link to my Calendly, and you can schedule a call, and we can talk about whether your story is something that I can write about and give you some impact, I guess, in some ways to get some visibility around your business.
And I think it's important that you say that, because I share with you when I built this, the Black Businesses podcast, or just even me wanting to do more, was because I read in 2008 the financial crisis, and I noticed that there weren't a lot of Black businesses on that Forbes list. And I said, how disappointing. Like, this is a financial crisis, and Black businesses have not been able to monetize this in a time that so many other businesses were able to do. And so I said, hey, in this COVID crisis, what businesses, and we have a few that we share that made the Forbes list. And so continue to make that your thing. I'm nothing against Black enterprise in essence, but when you're able to get that national attention outside of, one segment, it's powerful. It's super powerful. So I want to make sure that I let people know how to find Irfan. His name starts with an I. I know when I say Irfan, that it sounds like an A. Okay. But it starts with an I. IRFAN. IRFAN. I'm not a singer, but I had to throw that in there because I just felt like I needed to, I just needed to do a pop lock. So they can find you, connect with you. And can you tell them your last name?
Jafrey, Jaf, like Frank, REY. The best way to get a hold of me is just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yes, it is the best way to connect with him. Search. You can also search Roosterly. That's his company, and get to him too, so that you can also find that. I just want to make sure that if you have a unique story of your business and you want the world to know about it, share your story. And when I hear businesses, there's not opportunity, here's an opportunity. Doesn't mean that he's going to actually do it, but it's an opportunity. You just never know. And the thing about PR that people don't understand, because I've been in the business for quite some time, is that it's about timing, right? So people believe like, oh, I've got this great story. Well, for Black History Month, that's a great time, right? It's Food Week and you're talking about food. Knowing that you have a strategy behind your PR is what wins. And a lot of times people just pay PR professionals to get on, but you have no strategy. So that's one of my biggest things that drives me crazy. People are like, well, we want to get on the Good Morning America, but what's your strategy? And I had a business client a couple of years ago, and that was what they wanted for us, but they're writing that they've been on, all these networks, but from the networks, Irfan, they didn't get any sales because they didn't have a strategy.
That's right.
And so know that when you share your story, because this is what we do, we love storytelling. When you share your story, be very clear and concise on what you want to come out of this, so that when you share this, it's clear that as a result of this Forbes month, it really helped us in this area. Don't just share it because you just got nothing, you got something to say, but have a strategy on how you want that story to be told and be shared, so that your business can have some awareness in that particular area. I know you said it focuses on technology, so making sure that happens. He is on LinkedIn, so make sure you find that. Before we wrap up, I really, really want you to share kind of like what you see are the 3 most important tips kind of for some of these small businesses that may be listening, or just business leaders in general, right? What should they be doing kind of this year, or maybe first quarter, that they should really be paying more attention to?
Yeah, I think as a small business starting out, if that's the bulk of what who the listeners are, I would first say give a long, hard look to what you want your marketing to accomplish, because it's very easy to spend a lot of money on marketing without getting any results, right? That would be the first one, is understand why you're wanting to market, what you're wanting to market, and what you want those results to be. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be understanding the importance of measuring the right KPIs, right? The right metrics. So
that's key performance indicators. I'm just throwing it out for everybody because everybody doesn't know what that means. We're talking marketing language.
So things like, what is your cost per sale? What is your cost per lead? What is the lifetime value of your client? And so that is the only way that you'll be able to understand what the ROI is. Because a lot of times you might spend $100 on marketing and then you'll be excited that you got a sale, but you only made like $3 on that sale. So you're actually negative.
Right.
So those, just making sure that you're running a profitable marketing campaign, whether that's Facebook ads or Google ads or Instagram ads, is really important, especially when you're working with a very limited budget.
I'm glad that you said that because it is important. A lot of times people, in our business, they're not really understanding the why. They're just like, oh, I know I need to do some marketing, right? I just know it, but not understanding that why. And that's the other thing that we always talk about. So now that we understand kind of your journey, the other question that we ask all of our guests, and we love this question, is what brings you joy? I think I already know, but I'd love for you to say it.
Oh gosh. Okay. That is such a broad question. But it's a great question. So if you take a look at how researchers and social psychologists define happiness and joy, it's usually a function of change. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I live in downtown Chicago. My office is in downtown Chicago. I walk to work. I discovered a new way to get to work. That was a slightly different path. That was happiness to me. And I called my wife. Hey, do you know I found that you can make it to work this way?
I love it.
So things like that to me are important. Changes in our routine. Now, growing up, we couldn't afford changes in our routine because usually it's a function of generating more income and switching up your lifestyle and being able to do different things and not having the same day every day. So things like progress make me happy. Things, you shared a story with me I think on your Facebook that your eyes lit up when your dad sent you an audio message for the first time.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I think make up happiness for me. Playing with my son and noticing that he said a different word. He recently said the word astronaut, and I'm like, dude, I couldn't say that until I was 10. So it's those types of things, refining our processes, understanding on the business side. Are we doing things better? Are we getting any better? Are we making, I tend to make the same mistake 2, 3, 4 times before I learn, but finally I do. And so are we progressing as a company? And then, we measure, how do you measure the success of a business? It's usually, are you growing? We grew 236% year over year. So those, on the financial side, on the business side, those are the metrics that matter. And on the personal side, it's, just small changes that are positive that release some dopamine in your system.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that, when you said it, yes, progress and change, it does really lifts your spirits and know that, oh my gosh, this is exciting. And those small wins as business owners and business leaders, it really does shape and change your whole mood and really just put you in a better mood, which makes you all around a better person. And so I will say this because I've known you for quite some time. I love that when we do get together, we're able to share these stories. And I do think that the stories that people get to hear online and, in various ways, I really think that it does bring inspiration, so even just sitting here once again, interviewing my friend who, I'm grateful to know that I didn't know another part of you. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this other part of you. And that while you are a marketer in your own right, in the scientific and arts way, you have such a cool way of really selling. I don't know, you just do. And it's so natural for you. So that's the one thing that I love and appreciate. It's so natural. It's not like hey, I'm about to, I'm going to sell you on this. Like, no, I'm going to talk to you. And it's great because, for me, that's who I am. But culturally, we are the same in that regard. But you certainly, the numbers are just dynamite, which is why I think when you were like, so I'm just saying, when I talk to you, just like, okay, but Larvetta, at the end of the day, what are we trying to get? Like numbers, like what's her money like? And I love that about you. So it's like, no, I know you're in the feel good space. And so I love that. And I think sometimes we all need to hear that. And one thing that I will say as we close out this episode, is so good to have people that are smarter than you. But he's one of those that I appreciate in my network, and making sure that you have those people around you that are smart in those areas that you can lean on and really talk through, even when there's just like a bad day or you're just not knowing. I think it's important because the one thing that you said, Irfan, is that when you mention like knowing that as a child who didn't have a lot, and I didn't either, we didn't know what was on the other side because we didn't, we thought like, oh, I can do this. Oh, wow. So, it's like, oh, okay. Like over here, this is how they get down over here. I didn't know.
It feels good, doesn't it? It feels good when you can do that.
So for me, it was like, and I know that for you it was like, wow. So, yep, we can live downtown. I didn't, so from that standpoint and be able to be amongst the people in that regard. So I'm grateful that you said yes and are here on us. I just want to go back, if you can, tell people how they can reach you. And if you have a unique story about that, if you want to just reiterate that for our listeners.
Yeah, sure. You can Google my name. I come up in search results pretty frequently. And you can find me on LinkedIn, just my first and last name, and just connect with me that way.
Yeah. And he does respond on LinkedIn. Like that's his jam. So for those of us who like Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff, no, you got to get on LinkedIn to talk to this wonderful leader and business owner. Thank you so much for spending time with us on Black Businesses Matter podcast, and to know that our conversation last year really helped for me to really do this. So thank you for just putting a little juice in me and remind me that, it was important to put something out so that more and more people can hear about these amazing stories and connections. So I appreciate you. And again, Irfan Jafrey on LinkedIn, that is IRFAN IRFAM. I used to do radio, so that's why I'm always spelling out stuff. And so on LinkedIn, so please reach out. If you want to learn more about him, learn more about his business on at Roosterly, you can certainly do that. Again, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Businesses Matter. I appreciate you. And for anybody that wants to know, roosterly.com, if you want to learn more about Roosterly and what they can do to help your business, if you are a business leader running a top company and you're looking for someone to kind of help you with that, as well as small businesses who really want an opportunity to get noticed and kind of create some content on your platform, and they work on all platforms. So thank you again. Thank you for listening to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us this week on Black Businesses Matter podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen so you will never miss a show. You can also follow us on social media at the L3 Agency and at Larvetta Speaks. If you love the show, leave a rating so that we can continue to bring you impactful episodes. You can also take the pledge and order our merch at our website at thell3agency.com. THEL3agency.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.